Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's Halloween, a theme which represents ghosts, haunted houses, zombies, and every little disgusting thing known to mankind that might represent the holiday itself. The best way to celebrate nowadays as I was a little kid was to go out trick-or-treating, dressing up as a particular character of choice. Of course, as time went by, I grew up from going out on Halloween for candy, and now I stay in playing horrific video games that seems great for such an occasional holiday. Granted, I never played any horror survival games when I was growing up. I was strictly hooked onto my occasional platformers or first-person shooters that I would be lucky enough to even get my hands on, because my father is a gamer as well. As soon as I got introduced to 3D gaming, the Nintendo GameCube showed up as a Christmas present, and I was astonished. The first game included was Super Smash Bros. Melee, where my vision toward gaming expanded. Before this, I was only introduced to the 3D perspective of gaming thanks to my uncle and my cousin at the time because they had PlayStation 1. Eventually, as I expanded upon my gaming career, I have been introduced to more than just platforming, so my genre toward gaming have been expanded as well. I am a man that does not enjoy horror films. I have tried watching it multiple times with my father and my brothers, but they never grew on to me. I never liked the screaming, the torture, the blood and gore, and the panic of others. It just never had an effect on me. So when it came to Halloween, I never looked forward to what may be on television. I've always just went into my own little world doing what I love to do best, play video games. However, this didn't include anything Halloween related, until I got introduced to a horror game that my brother borrowed from a friend on the Nintendo GameCube, Resident Evil 4. Now, I have heard of the Resident Evil franchises, and I have seen bits and pieces of gameplay from my cousins as well as my friends. When my brother bought this game into the house, I figured that it was time to add an addition to my genre, so I picked up Resident Evil 4 and began playing it. I am not kidding when I say that Resident Evil 4 is the first ever horror game I have ever played. When I first started off the game, I was even terrified of the coughing when I entered the house alone. God, I was such a wuss back in that time, and I still am to this point. But I will admit that thanks to Resident Evil 4, I also got into more horror games that include Dead Space, Doom 3, American McGee's Alice, and Left 4 Dead. As my horror genre of gaming expand, I've been introduced to a certain addition to games that are known as modifications, which expand more experience based by the game itself. Granted, this was more likely ever to happen on the PC, which half the modifications on video games are free downloads. There was one game that I got introduced to thanks to a friend of mine that introduced me to Master of Audio Surf, who is another YouTube member that does blind gameplay walkthroughs on his channel. The game I was introduced to happened to be the modification for Half-Life 2 named Nightmare House 2. Now, I know what you may be thinking. How can there be a sequel to something that even came to be a number 2 of anything? Well, let's dive right into the game and find out. Before we get to the story, I want to give you a brief history like I did with my Black Mesa Source review. I figure it wouldn't hurt to dive into the history. That, and I gotta give credit where it's due. This modification was created by a group of people who have created a blog website known as WeCreateStuff. They put the time and focus toward their projects on games and flash films. The leader of WeCreateStuff, Hen Mazolski, have created a Half-Life 2 map pack in 2005 known as Nightmare House. This modification was released even before the website was. Thanks to this modification, it had made people wanting more from the team. It is considered to be one of the best horror map packs to date. After its success, Penn started working on a sequel. Not only was Nightmare House created by a team, but they also released Portal the Flash version in October of 2007. Portal the Flash version is a 2D Flash version of the popular game Portal by Valve. This made it to the New York Times, CNET's 10 most addictive online Flash games ever made, Game IS 2008 winner, Newgrounds Annual Tank Awards nominee, so on and so forth. After this much achievement, the team decided to create their own website, which can be found in the description box. In May 2008, they released another big hit, Portal, the Flash version map pack. I have never heard of this before, nor have I ever picked up on Portal, the Flash version. I have read up on their website, and apparently it ended up being featured in Portal Still Alive for the Xbox 360 Live Arcade by Valve themselves. So yeah, these people have made some major achievements of their own creations, and they are still coming up with games up to this day. I am looking forward to what they have to come up with next. For now, let's dive into the story of Nightmare House. Before there was Nightmare House 2, there was the original Nightmare House. Nightmare House is a modification made for Half-Life 2 Episode 2. You are known as a patient and find yourself outside of your vehicle, which was broken down in front of the household. You don't know whose house it belonged to until Nightmare House 2, which is the Romero household. With no other option, you head toward the large house. As you go toward the house, you see yourself at the front door, which happened to be locked. The only other way into the house was to break into the cellar and go in from there. Inside the house, you discover paranormal activity taking place, such as brief images of a woman who happened to be in distraught, which brought her to committing suicide. Not only that, but you are also putting up the undead creatures who are trying to kill you. After going through the house, you find yourself outside trying to get back to your vehicle, only to discover that your path is blocked, enabling you to escape. This modification isn't very long and the plot was weak, but thanks to the Half-Life gameplay, it makes up for it only a little bit. This modification got such high appraisal, leaving the audience wanting more. Fortunately, because of this modification's hugest achievement, a sequel had to be made, Nightmare House 2. I will warn you now that this section is full of spoilers, and if you don't care for spoilers, skip to this time frame right now. I will give you 5 seconds. Nightmare House 2 places you exactly where Nightmare House had you, but in a complete different makeover. I will get into that later. Nightmare House 2 takes place outside the Romero household. You take role once more as the individual who is driving alone at night through the woods. An accident causes him to crash nearby a mysterious mansion. While attempting to find help from the resulting crash that was experienced, he finds out that the house is plagued with the spirit of a vengeful young woman, as well as the undead creatures who wish to kill you. While attempting to make an escape from the death trap, the ghostly woman stops him and he falls to the ground, rendering him unconscious, leaving us with the same words as it said in Nightmare House map pack: "You cannot escape from Nightmare House." Except this time the story continues forward. Eventually you hear a voice that says these words:
"Same as it always was, isn't it? The mind just keeps sending you back again. It's interesting how you can find comfort in any familiar situation, even a familiar nightmare. Wake up. It's time for the real nightmare to begin."
And eventually wake up into a padded room. Upon leaving the room, you find yourself inside an abandoned hospital known as Never Lose Hope. Upon going down the corridors, you are meeting up with this ghostly woman again that you happen to take a glimpse at each corner. I am not kidding. There has been countless times that, even at the prologue, I was spooked at this woman's appearance. Why is she here? Why is she haunting you? Why the fuck should you care? Questions remain unanswered. You continue on through the hospital and eventually find yourself inside a room with the TV going off. You see a figure of a man in a lab coat and glasses who goes by the name of Dr. Romero. Questioning on how you got here, he offers to help you navigate the horrors of the entire hospital and get you both out alive from the hellhole. However, upon following his navigations, you find yourself in a Half-Life syndrome of going through air ducts, dark corridors, horrific rooms, and so much more. After a brief journey through the hospital where you encounter strange anomalies as well as zombies, you meet a dispatched SWAT team who are at the location for an unclear search and destroy objective and enlists you to help due to your seeming knowledge of the hospital. How wonderful. As you fight your way past various enemies, a member of the SWAT team, Johnson, mysteriously vanishes, leaving his machine gun behind. After picking up the weapon and fighting a horde of zombies, you and the remaining SWAT team continue moving forward, but shortly interrupted by falling into the ground, causing you and the SWAT team to split up. After continuing your trip through the hospital and witnessing more strange phenomenons as well as visions of the ghostly woman, and discovering the dead body of the missing SWAT member, Johnson, you find yourself at another strange phenomenon and eventually wake up to regroup with the SWAT team. The leader has then gotten a hold of command headquarters and without hesitation he calls for an evac chopper and abort mission. Approved, you are then tasked to lead the way. Once again you are forced to fight your way past various enemies. After a hardened battle, one of the other members from the dispatch team suffered and is overwhelmed of a headache. You are then tasked with the other member to override the gate and head on back here. However, upon coming back, you notice that the SWAT member that was suffering the headache is now overcome by the paranormal energy. After an attempt of trying to talk him down, you are left to kill him out of self-defense. As you and the remaining team fight your way, another incident occurs when a mysterious enemy drags the SWAT member away, killing him. Despite the tragic losses and heavy resistance, you and the SWAT team leader finally arrive at the extraction point. Nothing could possibly go wrong after all that has happened inside Never Lose Hospital, right? Well, fuck. Yes, you made your way to the evac point only to see the helicopter crash, rendering you unconscious. After a short time, you wake up to see the SWAT team leader critically wounded. He reveals to you that their objective was to search and kill Dr. Romero. What a mindfuck. The person that has been helping you through the hospital turned out to be the cause of the problem the whole time. After tasks what the SWAT team had failed to do, you head on toward the elevator and listen to Dr. Romero's final words. After trying to reassure you that he didn't kill anyone, he gives you two choices, either leaving the hospital or continue on the quest to kill him. Oh goody, a multiple ending. Well, for the plot's sake, let's continue down the elevator shaft. Upon going down the elevator, you find yourself inside a gigantic room filled with monitors, as well as the small quarters that Dr. Romero has been sleeping in. Inside, you see a small picture of him and his wife. After discovering the small room as well as the large one, you continue going down and notice a large core. Yes, the very same one that you have envisioned before waking up. After a few moments of discovering the core, you then hear Dr. Romero's rant on how much time and effort he had put into the core and decides to do an experiment to you. A large fight occurs between you and Dr. Romero. During this fight, you have to shut down a generator to take out the shield, allowing you to take out the support beams. After doing so, you are taken into your own mind, filled with the visions of the mysterious ghostly woman, as well as an explanation of how you got into the hospital to begin with. Upon destroying the support beams for the core, you are rendered to falling down due to the crash and find yourself defenseless with Dr. Romero walking up to you. The core then suddenly shuts down and you are welcomed to the scene between Dr. Romero and the ghostly woman who turns out to be his dead wife, Emily. After trying to talk her down, you see a brutal scene of Emily smacking Dr. Romero around and stretching his body to the point that he explodes chunks, shortly walking up to you to whisper the words "thank you" before being introduced to the credits. Wow. Now that we covered the main plot, let's see the alternate ending. Well, if you decide to take Dr. Romero's offer, you walk out of the hospital and down a dirt road until you are greeted with Emily once more, who ends up rendering you unconscious and killing you, with the text following by saying, "You have chosen to escape your fate and paid the price. You cannot escape from Nightmare House." How ironic. The gameplay is like any other normal shooter. If you haven't played Half-Life up to this point, you will be familiar with your key bindings very quickly and can jump right into the game. I just hope this wouldn't be your first time playing, because you will be needing someone to hold your hand while you shit your pants. Unless you are a hardcore horror fan, you will enjoy this modification a lot. I'm not kidding, I've had a hard time continuing this game after I got into Chapter 2. The last time I played this game was on April 25th of 2012. Thanks to TogPie222, I was able to continue playing Nightmare House 2, despite her laughing at me being scared on the game. Meanie. The graphics are filled to the brim with creepy atmosphere and unwanted images compared to its predecessor, and will leave you shivering as well as jumping from time to time as you are greeted with Emily's ghost. The team did a real tremendous job with the horror factor of this modification, and it will leave you satisfied. The sound quality is nothing too different, but you will be introduced with new effects as you go through this game. It's pretty amazing how people will find new ways to implement new sound into the game to make the game even more creepy to play. The voice acting only include Dr. Romero as well as that annoying hospital intercom, which presented their roles amazingly well. I happen to enjoy Dr. Romero's character as I continue playing the game. The music also fits in with this modification, giving this game more of a creepy atmosphere. I happen to enjoy the final track when you go against Dr. Romero and his core. Not really much else to say on that. Overall, this game was an interesting experience for me to play and to add to my horror collection. I wouldn't mind paying this game for at least $10. Yes, this modification is for free, and the link will be in the description as well. If you're interested in playing horror games and want to expand your library of games, I recommend adding this to your collection. It's definitely given me an interesting experience that I would never forget. With that, I am the Blue Hedgehog 2010, hoping that you all have a great and safe Halloween. Take care, my friends.